Should the government make educational spending equitable within and among school districts? Should we allow our tax dollars to be taken from our control and placed where the government sees fit? According to Position 2 in Chapter 3, no. Although allowing the government to give more funds to low-income schools and less to privileged schools does sound logical, it is flawed. Privileged educational spending is necessary in our economy in order to ensure the funds are distributed to intended schools and communities of taxpayers. What does this mean exactly? Parents of students in the district and local taxpayers would be responsible for providing the majority of funding to school districts in their community and would be able to allocate where funding is used. This means overall, the United States would be able to spend less in funding for education. Why is holding the community and parent responsible for their child's education frowned upon? According to some, inequitable funding for school districts is an injustice to those who come from low-income backgrounds. We must collect and distribute educational funding to achieve equal educational opportunities for all students, regardless of background. Equitable educational funding is logical, especially in a nation that is focused on standardized testing in order to measure student achievement. It only makes sense. The more funds we give to the underprivileged in order to equalize education for all, the better material resources school districts will be able to provide for their students. Because of the equal funding and better resources, we should see equal achievement from all students. This results in higher test scores across the nation. The answer becomes clear. The more funding we have in education allocated to districts equitably, the higher our nation's achievement will be. The reality is more funding for underprivileged districts does not always equal a better education. According to the article, "Does spending more on education improve academic achievement?" taxpayers have invested considerable resources in the nation's public schools. However, ever-increasing funding of education has not led to similarly improved student performance. The link between education spending and student performance graph shows there is no link between money spent on education and student achievement. The graph on the left shows a steady increase in spending per student over the last 35 years. And yet, the graph on the right does not show a steady increase in test scores over the years. While our funding has grown, our scores have flatlined. Still not convinced funding has no effect on student achievement? According to the total annual spending chart, the United States spent roughly $809.6 billion in education last year. No other country compares to that amount. Our closest competitor would be Japan, who only spent $160 billion on educational funding. While many others are close behind, when looking at the chart, Finland came in last with only having spent $10 billion for the year. With all our money spent, we should be the top in the nation testing scores, right? Wrong. Even with all our funding spent in the equalizing education for all students, the United States still falls near the bottom of the achievement charts. Finland, however, is at the bottom of the spending charts and the top of the scoring charts. Obviously, there are other contributing factors to student achievement. So, if more or equal funding for those underprivileged districts is not the answer, what can we do to see a rise in academic achievement across our nation? According to Layton, we should be spending our money helping our underprivileged children and families, not just trying to equalize their education with those in richer communities. Privileged education spending will allow communities to use local funds how they see fit to help their students and their community. Well-off communities will be able to continue to help their students grow and move at a faster pace than before, while underprivileged communities can focus on meeting the child's basic needs. These students tend to come to school malnourished and hungry, cannot find a quiet place to study due to overcrowding in the home, and are much more mobile when coming from lower socioeconomic homes. It seems the bigger issue, and one that would provide the greatest gains in student achievement, is to focus money to resources and neighborhoods for those in poverty-stricken homes, instead of allocating the money to schools. Providing communities with community centers, before and after school child care centers for working families, tutoring for students and adult mentoring programs for parents, medical care for those who cannot afford it, or meals for those students and families who often go hungry would be better use of local funds for these areas. Giving students better material resources to use in the classroom will do little to help the child achieve if the basic needs of the child are not being met in the home. If funds stay within the local communities and school districts of the taxpayers, how will this impact education? I believe this will result in an increase of community and parent involvement in the education of the child. Communities will have a bigger buy-in for education if they can see how their dollars are directly affecting students and teachers. Because
created using Powtoon.